want to talk to you today about a concept. And I'm going to need some help with this, which I'll get in just a moment if I can ever get the rope untangled. And the concept is one that is fairly simple, but I find that people have difficulties with it if they don't, get a little help with it, a little physical illustration. There are different things in life that hold you back, right? Different things. And in order to show that, I'm going to need Bentley here. First of all, grab it right in front of the big knot. Yeah, over here in the middle. Yeah, grab it right there. Because otherwise we're going to run out of room here. Okay. Now,
I can do it right now.
The concept is simple. It's found in different Bible verses. Okay? And I'm going to show you some of those so that you'll know with this what I mean and what the Bible means when it uses the word. Young people don't use the word a whole lot. It's called hinder. Okay? Hinder. Now, his job is simple. You're going to go just right over against that pew with that rope. Yeah. Now, take up the slack a little bit. Yeah, you're doing good. Now, hold that tight, okay? See, that's all he's got to do is just hold it and stand it. Now, don't move, all right? Now, you stay there. Now, for some reason, I got a hankering to go over here, okay? So, I'm going to go over here.
Oh, you're not supposed to move.
Well, yeah, let's try that one more time. Just go back there. Now, you stay there, okay? Yeah, he's got it. Now, this time, I think I'm going to preach up this way. So, we're going to head up towards you. And
Whoa!
I thought I might do that. I'm sorry.
We didn't nail that one down.
I thought something might happen. Yeah, that wouldn't nail down, was it? I didn't know that. You okay?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay, everything's good. He's got more stuff to him than I thought. The principle is clear, though. Something was given, right? He's supposed to keep everything still, and it's not being still there. That's because some things are not a big hindrance. They don't tell as much. They just they have their limitations, but they may not keep you from moving forward in life. It may seem like you're moving slow for a while, but you're moving. You're moving. All right. You did great. Take a seat there and let's let Matt get over and we'll try something a little different. Okay. I don't know what he weighs, but this is not going to be his fun. Now, I like to see what's out the window sometimes, and I know I'm supposed to be preaching, but it's a beautiful day, isn't it? Yes, it's a beautiful day. I think I want to check it out. Something ain't happening here. The wind is over here. Yeah. Okay. All right. I don't want to get a bellyache. So, all right. So what we're going to do? That's all I needed from him. Yeah. See, he was more like an anchor, right? You know, like when a ship drops that anchor, it don't want to go nowhere. Yeah. So he had kind of a little leverage advantage on me, you might say, and so I was anchored out, and I had a hard time moving. Now that was a hindrance. I can't get over that. I wanted to go over there, look out that window onto the pretty day, and I can't do it. It's a hindrance for me. In Genesis chapter 24, there was a time in which the word was used, and there was a fella sent by Abraham. Y'all remember Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and all those patriarchs and stuff? Well, Abraham wanted to get him a wife for Isaac. So they're going to find Rebekah, right? So he's supposed to go off away from the heathen and into his family over, way back over in other part of the Middle East there, over what we call Iraq today. So he travels over there and he finds her. And the thing about it is that nobody wants their daughter just to, be whisked right off, do they? You kind of, and nobody wants to let somebody just enter their life without you showing kindness to them. Hey, come eat supper with us, all that kind of stuff. Well, the man is all excited. He has found him a wife for Isaac. And he is fulfilling the job that Abraham, his boss, had sent him to do. So in verse 56 down there, he pleads with them. Do not hinder me on my way, since the Lord has blessed me. The Lord wants Isaac to have this woman for a wife. Don't hinder me from fulfilling my mission. I got to go get word back. It's a done deal. She is espoused to you. It's going to be great. Let me go back and tell him. Don't hinder me on my way. Now, how were they hindering him? Not because of anything bad they meant to do, right? We're going to see that later on in just a few minutes with another Bible verse. People don't always mean to hinder you on doing good things. Sometimes it's just the way it is. They don't know what they're doing, do they? But they hinder you sometimes. Same thing in the Bible. They don't really mean it that way, but the servant said, don't hinder me on my way. Now, if they had just, said something like, won't you, come in and eat a bite or something, then that's not too much of a hindrance. It'd be kind of like with me and Bentley. I'm going to go over and look out that window regardless because I have more leverage, than he does. And I can exert it. But if they had really, really pulled back and been like, say, Jacob when he was having to work all them years to get 2 wives. You remember that whole story in the Old Testament? And he really had to work years and years to get those wives. Then him going back home was greatly hindered, wasn't it? He was hindered by years. That's more like, the mat standing there and it's just not moving. Well, I'm not making any progress here. Man, I've been here 7 years now and I still can't go. I mean, what's up with that? So there are little hindrances and then there are big ones. My friends, before I get into some more Bible, let me just go ahead and tell you the kind of thing I'm thinking about this morning. When I was a young man, I felt hindered in obeying the gospel of Jesus Christ and becoming a Christian. And my hindrances were both small and large. Now, you say, what was a small hindrance? It was simple. If you go to church and you come forward, when you say you believe in Jesus, do you go through that door or that door? You see what I mean? That's a little hindrance. People wonder about that, don't they? Which door would they go through? To get dressed, I mean.
Either one.
See, here, they'll accommodate you either way.
What their gender is.
Oh, it's going to go the same place, right? All right. So I was at Double Springs in Putnam County, and I was like, well, I wonder about that. What do I physically do? Do I need to bring any, clothes with me? Or no, they all have robes pretty much in the building. Don't everybody does nowadays. So I didn't need that. But see, I didn't know. Do y'all see what I'm saying? It was a small hindrance, but it was there. And it was just a little bit of a drag because I was a young person and young people worry about stuff like that. Exactly how is this going to happen and the presentation of it and what people are going to see, because you're a little bit more worried at that time in your life. You think something that's little is bigger. Well, there were other big hindrances. My family did not go to church at that time. Now, my sister had started going to church because her boyfriend was taking her. But my family in general didn't go to church. Sunday, we thought Sunday morning was when you get up and you watch Jimmy the Greek predict who's going to win the NFL games that day. I don't know if any of y'all remember him, but I'm putting a date on myself there. And you watched that on TV, and then you saw some ball games. We was big Pittsburgh Steelers fans. We didn't go to church. But I was getting more religious. My mind was waking up to spiritual things, and I knew I've got to do something. I could not be satisfied. I was miserable. But there was a big hindrance there. And since we didn't go regular, not only did I not know the physical setup, the layout of how I would respond to God and say, hey, I want to be a Christian, I also did not know about my future in the sense of, well, I'm making a commitment. But how's that going to play out since, we don't go to church? I can't just say to people at church, I believe. My folks got to know that I'm getting so concerned here that I've got to do something. I've got to tell them first, don't I? I was just a boy at home, so I had to tell them. I was still living at the house. I got to tell them. I came to them and I said, Sunday, I think I'm going to be baptized. Now, you think, well, that's not a big hindrance. That took a lot for a young person.
Yeah.
Because before I confessed before the church, which didn't seem that big to me, I had to tell my own, who at that time were not very religious, that I'm going to put my life in the hands of Jesus Christ. And this is something that I am going to decide to do, and it didn't come from them, and it didn't come from their direction, and I'm sort of putting on them, when I say that, a little bit of a burden in a way, aren't I? A responsibility. They didn't go to church, but I tell you what, that Sunday, they were at church.
Praise the Lord.
My dad's now a deacon in the church. My brother's a deacon in the church. See, it all works out. All you got to do is say, whether it's a little hindrance or a big one, I've got to figure it out. I got to, untie the binds. I got to do something. Something's got to happen. I've got to get rid of the hindrance. You may not have identified your hindrance. Let me show you a couple of Bible verses. I'll show you what I mean. So if you look over in the Scripture, there's two kinds of hindrances. The hindrance of a Christian, let's deal with that one first, and the hindrance of a non-Christian. Sometimes preachers call them alien sinners. We don't mean people trying to come across the line over in Texas. We mean people that have never known Jesus, okay? So in 1 Thessalonians chapter 2 and in verse 18, the Apostle Paul was talking to brethren here. He said, I would have come to you time and again. 1 Thessalonians 2:18. But Satan hindered us. Now, since he says time and again, that means Satan was really working it. He didn't want Paul to get over there in Greece and do all that evangelistic work. I believe that Satan knew if Paul gets over there in Greece, it was a cultural center and a lot of trade was going through there, that he knew the gospel would go out all over the place. And so he was determined, Paul don't need to be going there. But by the power of God's Spirit, the Holy Spirit's more powerful than Satan, of course, by the power of the Word of God, which convicts men and changes them over to the way of God, because it's the sword of the Spirit, he was going to be successful, but Satan physically was putting barriers in his way. Well, Paul, you can't go over there. This guy you travel with, sick as a dog. I just gave him the virus. I just, boom, there you go. Why, Paul, you can't go over to them Thessalonians. Why, you'd have to take a boat over across, and I've made sure they're all out fishing. You can't get a boat to go across the Aegean Sea. See, you can't go. Satan was doing everything he could. And Paul said it was Satan doing it, didn't he? But you think about it. What was Satan doing? Was he in a red suit with a pitchfork? Over here saying, no, you can't take another step. I'll stick you with this. You know he wasn't doing that, was he? He was using the methods I just described to you before. Somebody got sick, can't find a boat, the little things like that. He was hindering them. Paul cut through it. He knew where the real hindrance was. The hindrance was really from Satan. And so that's why he says, we would have come to you time and again, but Satan hindered us. He knew where the problem was. Now, my friends, that was Paul moving from point A to point B. That's the hindrance there. What I want you to know is that Satan cannot, I don't care how big the hindrance is, I don't care how much lack of leverage you seem to have, Satan cannot keep you from finding a way to be a Christian and to stick it out with God. He cannot find a way to do that. He can put as big of a hindrance up against you as you possibly could imagine, but he cannot stop the Word of God and your gospel obedience. There is no way. That means for everybody here who is younger, you've been thinking about becoming a Christian, you don't know when. There is no time like the present. And there is nothing in your mind that you've wondered about that is too embarrassing for you to express. There is nothing that you're worried about that you can't come out with, and everybody will love and support you that wants you to come to Jesus Christ, and there are more with us than there are with Satan.
That's right.
You say, what do you mean there's more with us? Well, I got all kinds of people over at school and stuff, not a Christian, you say. I don't mean it that way. I don't mean it that way. I mean it the same way that Elisha and Elijah had God with them. And remember what the prophet said? He said, Lord, open their eyes so that they might see. Because he told the young man, he was worried about the situation. He said, there's more with us than there is with them. He said, God, open his eyes. And the fellow looked up, and there's the host of the angels in heaven, wasn't he? And then he realized, oh yeah, there's more with us than there is with them. God's got this. There is nothing that can hold you back. There is no hindrance. Now think about, as a Christian, he said, Satan's trying to keep me from coming to see you brethren. Somebody says, well, I'm hindered as far as going to church. Well, number one, with most people, and if the shoe fits, wear it. Y'all know who you are. People do what they want to do, right? People do what they want to do. You want to go somewhere, you want to do something, you're going to do it. Now, this is a little preview on tonight, but I'm going to go ahead and give it to you. We started here this morning at 9 a.m. Do you all know back in the day when I was a boy, when I first was converted then, I can remember, I don't know of any church that didn't have 10 o'clock Sunday school, 11 o'clock worship. They pretty much all did. Every one of them. You know what happened? There's nothing wrong with 9 a.m. Now you get back into 4 and 5 a.m. I don't even know those exist, so don't be calling me. No, I'm just kidding. You can call me anytime. But anyway, there's nothing wrong with 9 a.m., but I am afraid that the reasoning behind it bothers me a little bit. Not the action of it. You can meet at 5 a.m. in the morning. Doesn't matter to me. The reasoning behind it bothers me because I believe what has happened is that the trend is, hey, people got plans for Sunday. And those plans are not for the Lord, so let's go ahead and get this knocked out. You see what I mean? Let's go ahead and get church out of the way. Get it out of the way here, and then we can go about our afternoon activities. Whereas people before were thinking the activity today is church. So therefore they weren't worried about the time. And they had it later on in the day. But regardless of the reasoning behind that, the fact of the matter is that regardless of the barriers put in front of us, you can not only become a child of God, but as a child of God, you can stay faithful. Not just in coming to church, but you can stay faithful unto God because the support is here. I can already tell over here at Leonard, and I know a bunch of y'all are visiting today, but you got to love each other. Otherwise, you don't get a church stayed together. Did he say 1840, 44, something like that? Is that what Seth said? That's older than Mount Gilead, where I preached at for years and years. That's you getting back there. We're talking a lot of woods around here back then. A lot of woods. And people were still deciding to do what they want to do and stick it out with God. And you don't get that if you don't have a loving congregation. You got all the support you need to stay faithful to God. Well, I could never say what's coming up on my life and what's been bothering me, and I could never get them to pray for me to be stronger. Lord, yes, you can, my friend. That is one of those bigger hindrances because it's embarrassment, because it is a revealing of yourself, and us fellas especially don't like to do that. That's why I see more Christian women wherever I go than men. It is a difficulty, but the difficulty is by and large in here, okay? Satan's not physically stopping you. He's not there in that red suit with a pitchfork. Nobody is against you. We all want the very best for you, as I hope you do for me too. And if I got something today I need to tell you, whether it be as a visiting preacher or any of you all as members here, you can overcome any hindrance as a Christian. Now let me show you that in the Bible. If you go over now to the book of Mark, the Apostle Peter is already studying to go out and spread the gospel. He's not, on the outside looking in. He's already okay with God, and Jesus is going to call him Satan. You know why? Because he became a hindrance. Remember that word? A hindrance. This is Mark 8, beginning at verse 31. Mark 8, verse 31. Jesus began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things, be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and scribes, be killed, and after 3 days rise again. Everybody knows the story of the gospel there. If you've been in church for any length of time, and as preachers have been doing our job, you have heard this story. That's verse 31. In Mark 8 and verse 32, it says he spoke the word openly. Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. Peter is rebuking Jesus. The him there's Jesus. I like it sometimes that they put the capital pronouns in the Bibles, there. It lets you know the pronoun, what it's referring to. If the translator's done a good job, you know it's referring to Jesus. Peter is rebuking Jesus. That's a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
And he takes him aside because he's trying to be nice about it, but there ain't no nice way you rebuke Jesus. He didn't do anything. He never did anything wrong, right? So you don't rebuke Jesus. Now, when he had turned around and looked at his disciples, that is, Jesus turned around, he's like, no, it ain't going down like that. You don't call me aside and rebuke me as if I said something wrong. I'm going to put a stop to that right now. Jesus looked at his disciples and he rebuked Peter. He said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are not mindful of the things of God, but the things of men." He was a hindrance. That's all he was. He was trying to hold Peter back. And maybe Paul couldn't see exactly how it was playing out, but Jesus could see it. He knew what was happening. Peter, you don't even know that Satan's using you. Right now, my friend, I want you to seriously ask yourself a question. It's the most serious thought this morning as far as the deepness of it. Is there somebody that would be a Christian right now that you love? Somebody you have known in your family, from school, from work, a neighbor, but they're not a Christian because you have hindered them. You're not Satan. You don't mean to do bad. You don't mean to be bad. Peter didn't either, did they? But as a Christian, he could himself still be a hindrance. Now, I don't mean as a Christian, the kingdom hadn't started yet. I'm referring to him being right with God. As a child of God, he could still be a hindrance because Jesus says so. He calls him Satan. Get behind me, Satan. You're in my way. That's what he's saying. He is hindered by Peter himself. And Peter is acting on behalf of Satan and doesn't even know it. Be honest with yourself. What have you done? Maybe overlooked. Maybe something that you could do that you're not. Weigh it carefully. Pray to God for wisdom about it. And ask God to help you not be a hindrance for anybody or get in their way. Is there somebody who is a Christian who is hindered from coming back to the fold of God? You're a child of God, but somehow you have unwittingly, you didn't mean to go into this. You would have never thought 5 years ago, well, I'll quit working in the church. I'll quit doing this and I'll quit doing that and maybe just start coming sporadically or anything. You never meant that. But it's happening. It's going down right now. And you finally step back and you realize, I see it. I see it. Satan has got a hold. Peter didn't know it, did he? That Satan had a hold. There's wonderful news in this, my friend. Satan did have a hold on Peter's heart. He didn't have a hold there. He just was influencing him for a bad action. Peter can turn from that action, and you can turn too, because Satan doesn't own your heart. The Lord has owned you since the time that you devoted yourself unto Him in being converted to becoming a Christian. When you called upon Jesus Christ in full gospel obedience, then, what do you expect? For Satan to have any kind of power now over you? No. Jesus has all the power. Satan works through his children, but God works through His children. And you can overcome any kind of hindrance, any hindrance at all. What about if you're here and you never have been converted to Christ? How do you think Satan is hindering you? Maybe it's one of those little things about what do I do before I go down into the water? What is he going to ask me? You're just going to be asked if Jesus is Lord, if He's the Son of God. And you say He is. Well, what will I do then? Well, they'll have a garment there and you put that on. And then everything's ready. It's all prepared. And then you'll go down in the water and you come back up. You see, the old man is buried, isn't he? And the new man rises in a new life. And then you dry up. People are out here. They're just happy as all get out. We're singing and everything. It's just one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen. And God does the work. He operates on you in the inner man, the heart. Changes you into what you ought to be. It's a beautiful thing. There is nothing on your part. You're passive. You're just humbling yourself before the Lord. And so don't worry about anything physically that's going on. So if people know physically what's required to come to God, I need to repent, I got to turn from my sins, I need to confess Jesus, I need to be baptized, then what is the problem? I've had people come to me and they'll say, Tim, I don't know what to do. I've got into it with this fellow at work, or if it's a husband and wife, we're having a difficulty here. And sometimes I don't know what to tell them. I'm not qualified. I don't have all those little numbers and, therapeutic counselor descriptions out for my name and studied on the latest methods and everything. If it's a common little thing, maybe we can pray about it together and I can help you with it. But I tell you what, son, what I need to do is I'll get you in touch with this counseling center over here, this Christian-based counseling center. They know what to do and they will help you, and you all are going to come through this and you're going to be all right. When people are hindered, a lot of times it's because of that relationship issue. They won't come to God, or they won't stick it out with God, and they don't want to tell you what it is, but it is the relationship that's hindering them. I can't get it out of my mind. I can't focus on church stuff, preacher. We're arguing all the time. I can't focus on church stuff, preacher. I'm about to lose my job. That guy hates me. I can't. You see what I mean? Your relationships, it's dragging us down. There is nothing that keeps you between you and God. There is no amount of hate or any kind of relationship that could come first in your life and keep you from your faithfulness to the Lord. Do not let bad relationships stand in the way. Well, does Peter say the way that you deal with it here? Well, if it's a husband and wife thing, maybe the husband did not understand how to give honor to the wife because she's of a different disposition than him. She has a more tender conscience and heart, that kind of thing. She's the weaker vessel in that sense. And also, he has responsibilities in the home. Are you taking those responsibilities seriously? Maybe then that would repair the relationship enough for you to focus on God, for you to be able to get some of those problems out of the way. How many times do I enter into a Bible study? They see the truth of this. You know what God says. How much simpler can it be? He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved. You know that, and I know that. It's true. Why would somebody have a hard time with that? It's not because of what this good book says. It's because in their lives, the relationship is hindering them. I can't focus on that. But my friends, we have ways to get help. And if somebody is not too ashamed to ask God to help them, then He gets the right people to you. Maybe through one of us preachers who knows how to refer you, maybe some other way, but we can get help to you. And you can overcome any relationship problem. And if it means, say, for example, the illustration I was using before, losing your job, what's more important, your soul or your job? You will find a better job. You say, how can you know that's true? Because God will overcome the hindrance. Did He stop Paul from using the Greek people to spread the gospel throughout the world? No. He hindered Paul, didn't he? But Paul overcame the hindrance. He got over there in Greece and he spread the gospel all over the place, the apostle to the Gentiles. Ultimately, Satan was defeated. He may throw barriers into your way, but he cannot stop you. Sometimes God's children are hindered. Sometimes people who have never known Christ are hindered. One final example on that. There was an Ethiopian. And in Acts chapter 8, it describes Philip coming and talking to this Ethiopian. God sent him to him. He must have been a fellow that had a good heart. And God said, well, I got to get the message to him. You know, he's ready. He's ready. And they didn't have Bibles yet. The Bibles were in the process of being written, you know. So they would send the apostles and different disciples, God would, out to places and say, you know, you need to preach it here. You need to take this person. This man can take the gospel back to no telling how many places in Africa and Ethiopia, right? We just got to get the gospel to him. So God sent Philip to him. As God sent Philip to him, the man is reading his Old Testament Bible. Do you understand what you read? He said, unless some man shows me, how can I? He comes up in the chariot with them, and it says he began in verse 35 of Acts chapter 8 to preach unto him Jesus, teaching about Jesus from that very place in the Bible where he is reading in Isaiah. And so that he teaches him about Jesus, teaching about Jesus. The next verse, as he's teaching and preaching Jesus to him, that Ethiopian comes across some water. And he says exactly what I've been preaching about this morning. What hinders me? What's holding me back? Here is water. What hinders me from being baptized? Now, that's a man that's ready. If there's a barrier Satan has put up, he don't see it. And furthermore, Philip, he knew whatever barriers that Satan did have in front of this man's life, it's not good enough to stop him because he told him plain and simple, well, you got faith. That's basically what he said. Mm-hmm. If you believe, he said, I believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God. They both went down into the water and he baptized him. There was no hindrance. There was nothing that could hold him back from being a Christian, nothing that could keep him from taking that gospel back down into Africa and teaching those people the truth of the gospel. All kinds of souls may have been converted because of that. Because of that one good-hearted man who wanted to know, what's my hindrance? What's holding me back? If you have faith, Well, that's not a problem, is it? That's not a hindrance. No, I believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Let's go. Let's go. Do you believe this morning? There is no hindrance. There's nothing holding you back. There is no amount of embarrassment. There is no question that cannot be asked and answered. There is nothing that keeps you from being a Christian this morning but your decision to want to come to Jesus Christ. You wonder, what is holding me back? What is my hindrance? Absolutely nothing, my friend. Let us baptize you into Christ today. Let us study the Bible with you. Overcome anything that might be in your way. Answer any questions that you might have. Pray with you if you need strength to get back right with God. What do you need before Jesus this morning? Won't you come? Give it all up to Him. And come to Him as we stand and sing.